This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring programme that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Nick Tenconi. Nick, how are we, brother?
Very well, thank you, James. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on the show. Leader of UKIP, doing your thing. You're over in Cali, exposing immigrants, what they're all about. I'm all for that, and I'll state it here, like, be who you want to be in life, but have the correct papers, passport, or some sort of ID. You can't be coming here abusing our women, abusing our children. And most importantly, the figures now are there and proving that we're becoming one of the worst nations in the world for rape. It's went Sweden as well. America, I think, #1. I think we're now #2. London, which I'm a big fan of. I do a lot of work here. One of the greatest cities in the world, it's becoming one of the worst, which is a scary stat to have, you know. And it isn't safe. You're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to promote the right message. There must be a lot on your shoulders right now, but this is why we're here, brother.
Indeed. Yes. These things are sent to try us. So we just keep it very PG and say that the weight on the shoulders is crushing at times. But we have a severe void of testosterone and testicular fortitude in our young males, potentially even through no fault of their own. They've been sold a lie. So my message to our youth, our purpose with regards to Calais, the campaigns that we run, the monthly mass deportations, demos, the things I say, what I do, the weight on the shoulders. Our worldview is the Christian worldview. It's called picking up your cross for a reason. That's the point. Suffering is grace. So there are, within the darkness and the hard moments within the hard yards, the Christian worldview is that we offer up our suffering to our Lord and we say, please take this because I can't do this without your grace. And it's the Christian worldview that promotes the rejuvenation of UKIP in the direction specifically of saying we will reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government, which means we will re-inspire a nation. We will bring hope to the nation. We will also re-engineer society once we've done DDR, which is detention, deportation, remigration, because once that is done, we have an awful lot of problems in Britain. DDR doesn't solve everything. It has to happen first because it is the only thing that needs to be sorted in terms of pace and urgency. But we must also re-engineer society. So the weight is crushing on our shoulders. And then you've got the smears from the left, the smears from the liberals, the smears and the slander from your enemies. And then you've also got a large proportion of the far right that despise blue-blooded conservatives because they see us as fake patriots, because they see themselves, the ethno-nationalists, they see themselves as the guardian and the gatekeeper of this country, and that we slow them down. As a blue-blooded conservative, I absolutely will not have that. Ethno-nationalism does not play a part in our politics. So the weight on me, my team, my chairman, my advisors, my family, the people I've got around me is crushing. But the Christian worldview says, take that, suffering as grace, and offer it up to the Lord. And thanks be to God as well, because I am growing myself mentally and physically all the time. And I put all that down to my trust in my faith as a Christian.
Before we get into all the politics side, I always like to go back to the start with my guests, get more of a bit of understanding about you, Nick, where you grew up and how it all began.
Well, certainly. So I'm from a town called Eastbourne, next to Brighton, down on the coast.
Beautiful.
Very normal upbringing. I was fascinated with physical education. I was a B student at best, as in I could have been an A student or an A-star student, but I would prefer to be playing sport, particularly rugby. Physicality intrigued me. Physical strength, the utilization of testosterone. I grew up in a very sporting family, so very competitive. Not combative, but very, very competitive. And we played an awful lot of sport, an awful lot of the time, which I take as a blessing, as a good thing. I also grew up watching, guessing you and I are similar ages, we probably watched similar movies. It was always about East versus West, Christianity against unholiness. It was always a muscular, strong male who was saving the day or leading the charge or putting his life on the line or doing the unthinkable or the unimaginable. But there was clearly an East versus West, a communism versus Christianity feel to these movies, even subliminally perhaps, that I didn't know at the time. So my upbringing was normal, give or take an inch. And then during the 90s, the Soviet Union, 91, I believe, the wall came down, and I would ask my father questions continually when he was watching the news. Who's Thatcher? Why is she so important? Who's the IRA? Why are they trying to kill us? What do you mean Catholics and Protestants don't get on? What's Russia's involvement? These types of things. In the 80s and the 90s, if you were a kid, you had this opportunity to learn an awful lot about an awful lot. So I did. And I had a very patient father who would talk me through everything. And his stance was always to give me a very balanced viewpoint, both sides. This only furthered my intrigue. So I guess we could fast forward to school and A-levels, which again, normal stuff. And I started boxing when I was 17 because I think boxing's really cool. I just think it's an awesome sport. Some people prefer Thai boxing, MMA, but boxing was something that I wanted to explore. University came next, which is a bit more boxing, bit more rugby playing. Politics, international relations and philosophy. That was at Southampton University. That was just after World Trade Center. So I now have focused my academic sphere of expertise, influence into international relations theory, more so than politics. And IR theory, as a lot of your viewers will know, is liberalism, radicalism, Marxism, and realism. And these theories help us understand why things work in what's called an anarchical world. Then it's into corporate life, which was always sales and always business development, which I essentially earned my stripes in. KPI, high performance, very tough, demanding environments. And after 6 years of doing that, I decided that I was unmanageable and it wasn't fair on these people to ask to manage me. I did some really good numbers. I made some money, but I also had terrible months as well. So I thought probably best to go and start your own business, which I did, which of course would be into the personal training, hypertrophy, muscle and fitness, macro and micro nutrition, body image, whatever you want to call it, personal trainer. And nowadays that means that you're actually a lifestyle advisor because everyone's depressed, everyone's anxious, everyone's got body image issues, everyone's concerned about the battle of the sexes, everyone's got heartbreak going on all the time. So you actually become a lifestyle advisor, but you use the gym, which I always refer to as almost like a palace. That's where a man goes to fight his demons, to confront his anxiety and his depression. For some people, it's long walks out in the open air. For me, it's taking your body through suffering in the gym. And thanks be to God for that. So that went on for, 10, 12 years, which takes us to 2020, the year that everybody woke up. The infamous 2020, where everyone realized what the crack was. And you'll know that I became the Chief Operations Officer of Turning Point UK because I got off my backside and decided that after 2020, I wasn't going to be told which way I could and couldn't walk in Tesco's. I wasn't going to phone up some nonsense, overrated, rubbish gastro pub and ask to book a table so I could sit and have a pint of beer. So I tried to stay away from conversations around 2020, the lockdown files, the propaganda of fear campaign, mask mandates, absolute nonsense. People were clapping at the sky, James. You can't undo that level of indoctrination. You can't undo. I still get messages today, Nick, I took the jab and now I've got myocarditis or various different bits and pieces. Look, we need to move on. But the point from 20 is this. The British lion began to awaken in 2020. There's no question about it. So yes, Turning Point was 2021. Lots of your viewers will have seen my videos where I confront leftists, communists, Marxists, liberals, and a whole other variety of people in terms of the campaigns we were running at that time to highlight awareness and to expose far left indoctrination in our university campuses and on our schools. Fast forward to this time last year, I went from deputy leader of UKIP to interim leader of UKIP, and I stood in Trafalgar Square on July 1st last year at the Unite the Kingdom rally. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The 50,000 patriots. And everyone, the top table of influencers, who everyone knows, who have a huge reach, and all of the patriots who were desperate for guidance, they all backed Nigel and Reform. And I stood there pretty much to the day becoming interim leader of UKIP saying, you've got this wrong. Nigel, his ideology, high command at Reform, the 5 years from ending the Brexit Party into Reform, this is all liberalism. It's all Thatcherite economics, it's libertarianism, it's individualism, it's liberalism. It's everything we've had, and we still have, by the way, with the Conservative Party, which most of us have now been ejected from or left. That was a year ago. In the last year, you, your good self, other people have seen what I've done, which is to say we need an ideology that can save us. And the faith, our worldview, is the Christian worldview. So the faith is Christianity and the ideology is conservatism. If you combine the two, you've essentially got Christian nationalism. And that's what I've been pushing, talking about, discussing with people for the last year. We've forgotten the importance of political ideology. The voter has been apathetic and indifferent and just gone with what was popular or what they were told to do. Even that's not good enough to know the leader and to understand the party. You must understand your ideology, and we must bring the conversation of the importance of religion or faith back to the table. And then that's been the last year, is waking people up to the realities that we can't have another, what happened in 2024, we can't have that happen again in 29. It can't happen again. If people shout a certain name and everyone just follows blindly, that can't happen again.
We did though.
And it breaks my heart.
Did you know about Farage then?
Yeah.
Previously? Because obviously when you see people on stage and they were supporting that, I was for it as well because I didn't know much about it, if I'm honest, Reform. I just thought, yep, that's the saviours, that's the ones that's going to help. And the percentage, maybe 40%, they get a massive boost from that promotion. They get a massive boost from that media. And then things started to turn again. The last 6 months, the last kind of 9 months about Reform, people started waking up. But that time, people have already voted.
Obviously guys like you and I doing what we do, it's all PMA, it's all solutions, not problems. But there is a sadness there because we have no time left. And I stood there as newly appointed interim leader with our 6 missions and our Christian nationalist mission, and the influencers at top table of Unite the Kingdom and co, and the people that desperately wanted to follow something, all of them backed Nigel and Reform. And as you say, apparently there was a big spike in membership for Reform as a result of that. You're talking about big names that promoted Reform, big, certainly online at least, big names. And I stood there saying, this is wrong. Now, if you want more liberalism, to be very clear, If you want more liberalism and you want more centrism and you want more godlessness and you don't want to re-engineer society and you don't want to declare war on communism and you don't want to declare war on radical Islam and you don't want your country back and you want more establishment stooges who are susceptible to the seduction and manipulation tactics of WEF, of EU, of supranational tyranny, or some cabal that specializes in selling you adrenochrome, whatever your go-to is, if you want that for more of the same, Nigel and Reform fits the bill, but only time will tell. So this is very important. We will see what does and doesn't happen, but let's explore the timeline. How is it that I saw it and no one else did? How is it possible? And that's my question to everyone. How is it possible that I saw it? Habib was removed so that, because obviously they rejigged things, didn't they? Mm-hmm. So Nigel would remove himself as chairman and become leader. The guy that had been working in Clacton for 4 years, and you have to forgive me because I should remember his name, but I don't. The candidate, just like I will be standing the 650 candidates, each one of these candidates is going to be personally trained, coached and mentored and developed by me. Nigel, what was it, a week before the general election, or was it 10 days, 2 weeks?
Days, yeah.
He took the guy from Clacton. They did their little mathematical equation that we do with political parties, and you work out where you're going to stand because you're the leader, so you can't be made to look silly. You can't lose. He took the guy out that had been working there for 4 years, and he inserted himself. But that's disgusting. That's absolutely atrocious. Nigel didn't want anything to do. He had a comfortable gig at GB News. He does have money. And do you remember all of 2024? And the back end of 23, he would say no to politics. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. No, sitting in the background. A man hedging his bets is very obvious to see. So there's the removal of the individual first. Then there's the rejig, which gets rid of Ben Habib. But Ben Habib was deputy leader. You're deputy leader of Reform UK. That's quite the title. We should be asking ourselves, why wasn't Ben Habib in the Tory party? Because he genuinely believed Reform were different. Now he's been outed. So it goes back to the general election where Nigel did that to that human being, be no different from me thriving off of someone else's hard work for 4 years, and then I take the seat, which I think is despicable. Then there's the removal of Habib. Tice is universally disliked, so he remains in quite a senior position. Then there's the appointment of Zia, which was, I think, August or September, and a large sum, huge for political donations in the UK, frankly. Let's go back to Trafalgar Square. I knew that all these things could potentially happen because I understand the man and I understand the ideology. And then, of course, if we fast forward from Zia to Rupert Lowe, which I want to say was February or March, I think. So again, you've got the coffins lined up, and each month or each quarter, there's a new nail that goes in the coffin. And now we arrive at a situation whereby the people that have voted for reform will double down. So go back to Trafalgar Square. The people that voted for reform will double down and say, it's the best we've got. We mustn't split the vote. We cannot let Labour stay in. So there's a great deal of sadness, if I'm being honest with you. As I said, I have now not just one job to do, which is to convince people of our missions and our ideology and to stand in the party, but I have to undo the damage that's being done by not the right in general, but by very specific people on the right. And you can include Nigel and Reform in that if you like, because the mindset is we'll vote for Reform. They're the best we've got. But we got the Tory party for that. And then they'll say things like, well, we don't want to split the vote. We don't want to fracture the right. Well, hang on a minute. Reform, again, the sadness. Reform did that in the general election, did they not? They split the vote in how many constituencies? I think it was something where between 59 or 69 constituencies. But Labour have got a supermajority, have they not? Where did that supermajority come from? It came from every contributory factor that goes down at a first past the post system. So here we are, a year on from that time, and I have all these different challenges in front of me. Again, winning the hearts and minds of people which say, please judge the leader, judge the policies, and judge the missions. All of this is based on Christianity and conservatism. And that's quite the task to wake people up to those realities. But it's not insurmountable, and it is possible, and it is working. But there's a sadness there to that as well. We have no time left.
Yeah, because I think, like you says, I think people were just, Reform was the best of a bad bunch. And I think people were just sick of Starmer. I think they were sick of Labour and their lies. And I think people have then jumped to gun too quick because without the information that they had. And then once Reform got in, you've seen the changes, you've seen the manoeuvres, you've seen the sneakiness of, this isn't what they're saying. This isn't what they've set out to do once they kind of got those votes and backing. Is that what politics is like, though? Is that what you're seeing with a lot of bad moves and a lot of people that are full of shit?
Yeah, so this is my point. So one item I missed out from that timeline is Nigel did the interview with Winston Marshall where he said no to mass deportations. Now, I don't remember which month it was. I think it came after the Rupert Lowe scandal. So I think it was Feb, March. I think it might have been as late as April, May. I don't remember when. But again, he said no to mass deportations. Mass deportations and remigration is what the patriots want. It's what the class that keeps Britain moving, whether you call it the backbone, the silent majority, or the working class. Don't mind what you call it. The people that keep Britain moving, these people deserve justice. The girls deserve justice. It's detentions, deportations, and remigration. And Nigel has said no to it. He doesn't want it. And his reason is that it can't be done. So Trump now, since taking office, so let's just use January, 300,000 have been deported from the US, and apparently illegal immigration is down to zero. Bearing in mind, you can't stop one or two people digging or running or whatever. And we know about the advent of what they call ICE. So we know it is demonstrably doable. I know it is doable, and we are going to do it. It's the one thing that the patriots and the people want. But Nigel said no. Why? Because he's going back to your question about slipperiness in politics. I'm going to try and link this for your viewers. It is complicated, but I'll give it a go. The slipperiness that you refer to is Nigel saying, flip-flopping. It's Nigel saying no to mass deportations. So let's ask ourselves, why would he do that? All the top table influencers in the 50,000 Trafalgar Square backed him. I knew that Nigel's ideology, his stance, is liberalism. It's give or take an inch. Love is love, live and let live, Thatcherite economics. Right, libertarianism, basically. Small state, potentially, but you don't know who's working for the deep state. So everyone's got a question mark over their head on that. So is it slippery behaviour? Well, no, he's pandering to the liberal vote. And this is for your audience. Liberals pander to the centre ground. So in the centre ground, you've got your materialistic atheists, you've got your capitalists, you've got your wealthy, you've got your elderly, you've got the relics of Boomer, you've got your LGBTQ, IA+, or just LGB is huge within that community. You sit in the middle and you wait. You don't do anything over here. You don't do anything over here, but maybe a little bit on the left, maybe a little bit on the right. Please everyone. Now, let me give your audience another example. You and I right now are in a constituency. You and I both live in constituencies. I'm 100% certain, and I know this to be true, most constituencies now will be 25% communist because we have seen the advent and rise of far left extremism in Britain. It never went anywhere. Patriots and the Conservative Party just turned their backs on the toxicity and the evil of communism. 25% will be communist. 25% will be socialist and or centre-left. 25% will be Christian nationalist, which is our voter. And the other 25% will just be concerned but not overly bothered as long as I've got my bills paid and my wife and my kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Every constituency, right. There'll be four main clumps to most constituencies unless they're really radical and always have been, and that's immovable. That's hugely problematic. So if you're Nigel and you want power, you will flip-flop on an awful lot of issues. You will seem snake-like on an awful lot of issues. You will seem slippery because you don't know which vote you're pandering to. This is for your audience, James. Now imagine that. Imagine if patriots woke up, again, silent majority, backbone, dealer's choice with regards to what you want to refer to them as, the people that keep this country moving, all the people that don't, that huge percentage of people that don't vote. Imagine if those people woke up to the fact that a man in a suit, another man in a suit, who's a multi-millionaire, by the way, he wants the middle ground vote. because these voters, they're the ones typically who are registered to vote. These are the people who typically do tend to vote, and they vote regards the establishment, which is what we've had. Now imagine patriots woke up to the realities that in a first past the post system, as I'm telling them, that if they back a horse and they give everything to that political party, they can also start returning their own majorities. Because these people are demoralized, they're demotivated, they've given up. So this is, like I said from the start, hugely complicated to explain. But if patriots start to understand that we don't need more establishment, middle, center ground, centrist, liberal nonsense. We need unwavering Trump style, and there are other parties in Europe that are doing the same thing. I'm doing it for the UK. Mass deportations, remigration, reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government, declare war on radical Islam and on communism. Takes 6 seconds. Unwavering. So when you say, isn't all politics slippery? We've been taught that, but it doesn't have to be like that. My message is unwavering and my message is clear. We made a huge mistake. I'll say we, last summer. We don't have time to make the same mistake again. This is as grave as it gets.
How is the UK state just now? What do you think is the biggest problem to the UK just now?
The biggest problem to the UK right now is the illegal Islamist invasion. Let's start calling it what it is. The illegal Islamist invasion, mass, uncontrolled, undemocratic, legal immigration. These problems are the biggest threats to national domestic security. If you begin mass deportations, you automatically reduce the chances of rape and sexual assault by 25% overnight, and that's being generous. If you begin mass deportations of the Islamists and the communists, you automatically remove the number one terror threat to Britain in 2025 and the radical trans lobby, which is at the heart of the communist movement. So no more sons and daughters become indoctrinated because they've seen someone do something like mutilate themselves, and then they go on to take medication for the rest of their life and regret such an awful, awful decision. There are a number of things that will happen if you begin mass deportations. All of a sudden, there's going to a huge vacuum on the property ladder. House prices will inevitably plummet. We want our young men and women getting married and having kids as early as possible. We want them in homes. We would get our morale back because we would once again be galvanizing, just like over the Second World War and other examples. We would be galvanizing over a common solution to a common threat, which is that we want our country back and that we've said enough is enough. So we want to see some traction. We want to see some movement. So detentions, deportations and remigration, absolutely essential. And to not do it is the number one threat to the UK. But I will go one stage further, as I do when the left think that when they're interviewing me and they've got a gotcha moment, we will still have problems in British society. So we have 6 missions. You say, what's the biggest problem? Obviously, mass uncontrolled legal immigration and the Islamist invasion. It's not just illegal immigration, it's an Islamist invasion. They're here to spread the caliphate. That's it, by the back door. The second biggest problem is godlessness, liberalism, fatherlessness, narcissism, pride, love of the self. Now, I could go into a lot of detail with regards to what I mean by that, but after we've done DDR, detention, deportation, remigration, we must re-engineer society. We must give young men a sense of purpose. We must give young women something to aspire to other than vacuous, secular worldviews, endless abortions, endless actions without consequences. The battle of the sexes must be addressed because we want our young men and women meeting, marrying, having children, being able to buy a home, get on the property ladder. Another thing we have to re-engineer is this London-centric economy. People living as close to London as they can whilst doing 2-hour commutes back and forth, burning out, sitting in a cage all day, doing a job that they despise. Why aren't we staying local to our communities? Why aren't we still greengrocers? Why aren't we still fishmongers, butchers? Why aren't we still road sweepers? Why aren't we still doing these things in our communities? When you think about it, it was the norm as a millennial growing up that you would 100% leave home as quickly as possible, 100% leave home to go to university, 100% travel the world, and 100% not live close to mum and dad once you're done with it all. It's madness. We have to re-engineer society. Give you another example. Let's take out the Deliveroo economy. So anyone using any kind of man on a scooter to deliver your food, I think that's abhorrent. And I will pass judgment there. I think that's absolutely abhorrent because you're supplying the Deliveroo economy. We need to stop that, and we need to encourage men and women to be cooking for themselves within the home like other cultures do, where everything's based around the dinner table and about sitting down to eat good home-cooked food. We need to address the issue of monopolies and vulture capitalism and address the issue of regulation. Why do so many fast food chains have such monopoly? Why do certain supermarkets have such monopoly? Why does our food often not taste like food? So we can talk about DDR all we want, and we must, and we will, but we must also talk about so many, I haven't even scratched the surface there, but about re-engineering British society. And to do that, you have to reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government.
When did you think it started all going wrong? Why isn't it such a mess? Like, our family values are gone, divorces through the roof, suicides through the roof, addiction. Like, there's some negative. I was speaking to someone just before you came on. He says with the British shore, he says with the energy and the vibration here, it's got a spiritual connection. That's why people here are so powerful. That's why Britain have basically invaded the whole world. We had a big part of the world just in the 1800s. I think a quarter still was run by the British Empire. But now it's becoming soft. The men are becoming weaker. Everything's becoming lazy, and nobody's want to speak out. Everybody's becoming fragile. Like, when did it fucking start going sour? When did it? When was it? When was the telltale signs that it's not becoming a true culture anymore? Scotland's known as Scotland for Scottish people, English people. You can't have a culture of a Scottish people and English people if it's run by everyone else, you know. And you go to these other countries, you'll not see a white Christian in Parliament. You won't see chapels or churches in countries or across the pond, you know, and in these Saudi Arabia, you'll not see chapels. They're not allowed there. You know, I think there's like 40,000 churches here, maybe over 2,000 mosques, but the mosques are busier than the churches. But when did it start? When did things start slipping? When did you realise something ain't right here?
Can I ask you a question? Are you a Christian?
Yeah, I was raised Christian. Yeah, I've got a big, no, you shouldn't have tattoos, but I've got a big crucifix in my back. I've kind of, it's like, I'm not going to say my faith goes, but sometimes I think, what the fuck's the point? You know, you can kind of lose hope, and all you need is faith and hope, you know. But I was raised Catholic, born Christian, baptised through all this.
So, very important question, where did it all start to go wrong? So first and foremost, nothing's changed in just over 2,000 years. It's right there in the life, passion, death, and resurrection of our Lord and Savior. And it's right there in several Bible passages. You will suffer. You will be persecuted. You will in the Old Testament as well, not just the New Testament. So before our Lord, you will suffer, you will be persecuted, all for the sake of righteousness. So it's a great question. Our worldview is the Christian worldview. Nothing's changed in over 2,000 years. So we are born to suffer. The idea is to understand that suffering is grace. Now, if we come away from that, start talking about the Reformation. Now, I have to tread very carefully here because I'm looking to unite Christians, because the churches, give or take an inch, are empty. We need to talk about that. I can fast forward through the Reformation, through the Enlightenment period, through fourth stage industrial revolution, the fact that the technological revolution has outpaced human evolution, fourth wave radical feminism. I can bypass all of that. A lot of it is satanic. I can bypass all of that and say that I believe at every defining moment in history, men were gathered either in a tavern or in a church. or some sort of hall or room, and they discussed what was to be done about imminent threats. Now, I'll let that sink in with your audience. That's what I believe. Men met either in a, tavern, a pub, a hall, a room, some sort of closed quarters, or the church. There was something about that sense of community where you see it most prevalent in Northern Ireland. I see it every time I go there. Is absolutely, it's totally alluring. It's everywhere. You can feel it. And I guess it comes down to men are men. There's a sense of community. But actually what we're really talking about is a sense of duty. You see, my worldview is that man is born to die. You're not here to be liked. If you're liked, that's great. It's nice to be liked, but we're not here to be liked. We're here to be respected. We're here to use our God-given testosterone, our power, the monster within, to become very, very trained and disciplined to be able to protect and to provide. Now, we know that liberalism, everything I mentioned from Reformation through to Enlightenment, through to the hippie period after the Second World War, which was communism. So let's call it what it is and get our language right. Through to libertarianism, again, hugely problematic under Thatcher, revered in conservative circles, but it was libertarianism. It was individualism. It was rejection of the collective, born into vulture capitalism, an extension of capitalism, and then the corporatism, which is an extension of vulture capitalism. The advent of porn technology. Rather than dissect every single one of those, when did men stop getting together in church or after service or in pubs or in closed quarters? When did we stop getting together? And from there, we see natural leaders emerge, because also not everyone wants to be a leader. It's not all about you and me. Not everyone actually wants to be top table or leader. So naturally, tribes formed where they would ultimately appoint what we call a community leader. Now, to give you the example you said about the churches, this is very important, the churches being empty. The traditional Latin masses aren't empty, they're full. But I am aware of what's called Novus Ordo services, and they are dwindling massively. And I'll say this, the indigenous certainly aren't in there. And as for the Protestant churches, you and I both know that if you and I went to, on Sunday, any given Anglican, High Anglican, Anglo-Catholic church, it's going to be empty. You're going to have 80-year-old Jean, you're going to have 75-year-old Pete, you're going to have a few people, but you're not going to have screaming babies. And this is key. If you go to any traditional Latin mass, you're going to hear screaming babies. It's quite funny because you're trying to worship and you're there with one purpose. You reverence, and you got screaming kids. But it's interesting because it tells you something. Now compare that, and I know because I've been to the Protestant churches. So there's this allegation by Muslims and Islamists alike that Christianity's dying, nothing can resurrect it, and the churches are empty. Not true. The Protestant Anglo-Catholic churches in various parts of Britain, not all parts, but various parts, they are dwindling. So we must ask ourselves why that is, because every time you go to a traditional Latin mass, it's not dwindling. Doesn't matter where you go to one a week for 2-3 years, you'll have a very good idea of numbers dwindling, and you'll do it at random times as well, etc. Oh, and another thing, in response to Muslims, be Islamists or Muslims, saying that the church numbers are dwindling, trust me, there are plenty of mosques that aren't full on a Friday. You see the busy ones, and that gets reported on, and you'll be driving around a town specifically at 6 p.m. on a Friday, and you'll see them all. But they've got their own problems. So again, it's Islamist propaganda to demoralize us. I put up a tweet the other day that's gone past 1 million views. With my account's still quite small, and it says not one penny of British taxpayer money should fund any religion other than Christianity. And a well-known Islamist has said, I completely agree, it shouldn't. We have some common ground there. And then he says, Christianity's dead, it doesn't matter whether you fund it or not. Do you see how all of this Islamist propaganda serves to demoralize us? It serves to humiliate us. Our roots are being trampled on by these people. But it's lies. It's lies and false propaganda. There are certain churches and denominations that are empty. You go to charismatic, or what's called, I'm trying to think of the name. I think it's called, the denomination is called charismatic, born again. There's some denominations there. Those parishes are full. So it's not all parishes, it's some parishes. And I'm dollars to donuts for your viewers. It'll be the Church of England parishes that are dying out. So when the attacks on Christianity in Britain, these are attacks on the Church of England, the heretical, traitorous Church of England, which, like so many of our institutions, have been captured. So the question about where it all went wrong, I'm going to let you and your audience decide from the Reformation through Enlightenment, through the hippie commie period, through to liberalism, through to fourth wave radical feminism and fourth stage industrial rev. I'll let your viewers decide. The sooner everyone picks a side and gets back to church, the better, because that is going to solve an awful lot of our problems.
Yeah, my great aunt and uncle, they used to work in the chapel in Glasgow, but when I was like 9, 10, they were packed. You remember talking 200 or 300 people on a Friday and a Saturday night? I still go to midnight mass in a Christmas period, and they're always packed then. But I don't know if it's people lose faith, people lose hope, people just get caught up in social media and their own stresses, and they kind of forget who they are. And like I say, it's a big divide in the world. But how do we then, because like I say, with these Muslim countries, they don't let chapels, they don't let churches, They don't have that. So why have we let it come to a white Christian kind of nation of allowing mosques to be built everywhere and anywhere?
Sure. So I'd like to tack on another point to that question from the previous one. You do know that the Church of England, you know, these churches, they'll fly rainbow flags, and pride flags.
You'll see priests with the rainbow flag.
Yeah, and in terms of their paraphernalia, yeah. I mean, so again, we the Church of England is totally captured, but the Church of England is a Protestant denomination. It's not. Its roots are in Catholicism, but it's not. It's a denomination. So we've got to be very careful with our language and our words here about the problems in Britain re-Christianity. For a lot of people, me included, there are no problems, which then means we turn to your question, which is sadly political, but great news for me because we're going to reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government. There is a deliberate attempt to defund Christianity. Everything costs money. Everything costs money. There is a deliberate attempt to defund Christianity in Britain. The Charity Commission also owns or has rights over an awful lot of churches. So when you find our persecuted priests and fathers, you'll find that they got shut down because someone complained to a panel of 6 or 7 octogenarians who decided to write to the Charity Commission, because they were on the board for the church, who decided to write to the Charity Commission to say, right, you need to shut this guy down. And then the next thing, the church doors are locked, and that ideologically sound, robust priest is no longer shepherd of the flock in that area. So it's not just the Church of England that's captured, it's the Charity Commission also. But the government have an invested interest in defunding Christianity, whereas under my government, entities like Christian Concern would be given everything that they needed. Now, Christian Concern do a lot of good work, but they can always do more, and more means more money. So I met with the CEO of Christian Concern recently, and I told her, under my government, you guys would want for nothing. We would put organizations, some people call them agencies or lobby groups, but you put things in place with funding to protect what we deem important, our roots, heritage, but also for Christians, it's doctrinal truth. So you would throw everything at protecting it. And of course, we're going to do detentions, deportations, remigration, right? So that's going to remove an awful lot of the problem. But again, that's why it's so important when I said we've got to re-engineer society. So yes, there is a deliberate attempt by the British government to defund Christianity, which kind of links into the Charity Commission, and it also links into the promotion of LGBTQIA+ madness. Guys like Justin Welby, for example, taking the knee for Black Lives Matter, the church absolutely refusing to be political, but when it's a far left agenda, they are hugely political. So it doesn't take long to mind map where these problems lie. So for all the disdain and vitriol and bigotry against the Catholic Church, which I'm more than happy to have that conversation, by the way, there seems to be a real hesitancy to go after the epicenter of the nucleus with regards to why Christianity is being defunded, why the church numbers are dwindling, why we're being mocked and laughed at across the world. Because the Church of England is a disgrace. It's run by heretics. They're traitors. So it's a long answer, but it's a very easy question to answer. If you put the right people, if you have these things called institutions, if you put the right people in those institutions, we all win, we all flourish, we all prosper. And that which is sacred to us remains sacred and protected. If you put bad people, the wrong people in these institutions, then they go down the pan. And that's what's happened with the Church of England.
Back to immigration, why is it been allowed to happen? When you talk about Trump taking over in January, he stopped it immediately. We have the power to do that, especially a smaller island. Our shores aren't that big to get to Cali to, I think it was just over 30 miles. The army can stop it within 15 minutes, half an hour. So why, is there a bigger agenda behind it, do you think? What's it all about? Because there's something with the unrest and people marching on the streets. Listen, it's a good thing because the people in Britain, they can't be fooled for too long and they will unite when need be. Like, we're a tough fucking nation. But what do you think the true agenda is behind it all, and why is it allowed to happen?
I'm not sure anyone knows the true agenda, but I am forced at this point to remind you again that our worldview is the Christian worldview. So we're judged on the day of judgment. We're judged by words, faith, and actions also. So for me, the agenda is satanic. So everyone wants to know what the agenda is. In Bournemouth, I gave a speech. Wait a minute, Saturday just gone. Lady came up to me. She was so invigorated. She wanted to tell me about how when we defeated Hitler and we defeated the SS, who's they, planted SS guards, where they planted SS guards all around the world, and the overlords, the cabal, the New World Order, they're going to come for Britain first because Britain is the most powerful and the most Christian, and we defeated the Nazis. And I listened to her for about 2-3 minutes and I thought, there's one I hadn't heard before. That sounds great. Everyone wants to know who's running the agenda. What is the agenda? Right, first of all, Christian worldview, there is, for everything holy, there is something unholy. There is good, there is evil, there is light, there is dark. So I personally believe this is all just a test. When you straight question, what's the agenda, who's running it? I think this is all just a test for men to step up. So on the day of judgment, when they get on their knees, they go, I did my best. I didn't just stay at home and pray and observe and embrace and worship middle-class Christianity, which I think is disgusting, but I got off my knees and I went and fought. I went and tried. It's called action. Now, if we move away from faith and worldviews and religious worldviews, we arrive at a very interesting conversation. You've got MI6, you've got CIA, you've got Saudi, and you've got Mossad. What are they up to? What are they doing? And unfortunately, I can't tell you. And that's without talking about the Chinese, and that's without talking about the Russians, which leads us to one smoking gun if we park the religious worldview. In life, you will always have civilians, you and I. You will always have mafia. Then you've got politics, and then you've got the one that pulls the strings at the very top. So is there a cabal at the very top which sets off bombs near Ukraine so Russia can go and do this? And the invasion of Iraq being actually highly illegal. The Marines were told in 2001 their first order was to secure the oil fields. That's well documented. World Trade Center, was it an inside job? Let's spend the rest of our lives working out what this agenda is. Why is the government flooding our land with Islamists? Why is the government lying about who's coming here. Why do the left call them refugees? Why does our government call them refugees? Why does our government call them irregular migrants? Why, when I went to Calais, are there members of Antifa and Socialist Worker Party and communists guarding these people, feeding them, clothing them, looking after them, making sure they have their illicit drugs and illegal drugs? I've seen it all. So many good questions. Why doesn't the government deploy the Navy into the Channel? It's exactly what we're going to do under a UKIP government. We're going to release the Navy into the Channel, that no more boats would come across. They would quite literally be, there would either be an iron dome put up there, a shield, which wouldn't be, you'd use spikes, which would then lay it as floats with buoys, for example. We're on record as saying we could do something like that. But the boats would be, the boats would be armed. The response would be armed, and they would be treated as criminals. End of discussion. So back to the question, why doesn't the government deploy the military, release the Navy? Why are they allowing this and calling them migrants? Last night, I'm sure you avoid the mainstream media news same as I do. 10 o'clock news. It's there. People say that the mainstream media lies. It's right there. Under Keir Starmer's leadership, so we're coming up to the anniversary or the year mark, whatever, 50,000. It's right there. It's headline news. But they call them migrants. And again, then there's a follow-up story to the news report, which is that Starmer promised to smash the gangs. So do you see the demoralization? Do you see the nonsense that we're engulfed in? The media is reporting on it, but they're lying about it. The government knows about it and is giving us lies and refuses to grow a spine and to actually get on and do it. Again, the advent of Trump's main moves coming into office, 300,000 gone. So we know it's doable. Why is it happening and who's running it? Over to you, James. Over to your audience. You tell me.
You can go down the rabbit hole, you can go down the conspiracy route, but there is something fishy about it. People aren't daft, and especially in the UK. But how beneficial would it be for the people in the United Kingdom if the boats get stopped completely?
Completely beneficial. There are two arguments with regards to why we must do DDR, detention, deportation, remigration. One is for the safety of our women and children. So we look at stats. So rapes in England and Wales in 2001, 8,550, give or take an inch, rapes were recorded. In 2024, 72,000 rapes. In a 24 year period, they've gone up 730%, which the left say has no correlation to mass uncontrolled legal immigration. But the right says, well, there clearly is. That the advent of mass uncontrolled legal immigration is the smoking gun there. Then you go to places like Barbican and the Thistle Hotel, where another campaign that I'm happy to be helping. I'm speaking at 10, 15 different hotels on a weekly revolving basis now. The migrants, not all of them rape and murder, but they spit at you. They harass young women. They kill geese and swans. They steal clothes from clothing banks. This is so important. So your very important question. How important is mass deportations and the removal of invaders? You've got your stats argument. Stop killing geese and swan in our ponds. Stop spitting at people that you call kuffar. Stop harassing young women. Stop raping and murdering. Thomas Roberts, 21 years old, Bournemouth, murdered by an illegal Afghani invader who was already convicted of murder as a result of his shenanigans in Norway and Afghan. He should never have been here. Multiple confirmed rapes, multiple confirmed cases of paedophilia. But what about the ones that don't do the heinous crimes? They sit in the towns, they sit on the park benches, they harass, they hunt, they demoralize, they catcall. Meanwhile, the police launched their little advert on X, which is the two female police officers jogging. And the caption is that these aren't actually joggers. They're female police officers being followed by a police car so that they can address and arrest men who catcall female joggers. What, in terms of the problem list, so we've got all of your stats, detention, deportation, remigration, pick one. 2 billion a year housing, 75 1,000 illegals. I mean, I could do this all day. We've also got the next report in, which I think was yesterday, because each day it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. The government has lost control of X amount, I think it was 50,000 illegals. But all this does is serves to crush our will and our spirit. So you've got the statistic model. Then the other side of why Britain benefits from mass deportations is we need a clean slate. We need to start again. We need a win. We need a victory. We need a political party with a leader and a vision which says, if we do this, we take our country back. We show balls. We show strength. And nothing inspires and motivates more than courage and bravery. We will reignite our sense of belonging and shared identity by sending home the people who are in our land who do not belong here. So whether you look at the stats and the economy and the numbers and safety of women and children and the demoralization and the sexual assaults, the crime statistics, or whether you look at, do you know what? We need a bit of a tear up in the UK. We actually need a clean slate. We need to put men to good use. The forecast is roughly 150,000 foot soldiers, and the forecast is roughly 40 billion. 21 billion a year spent on out of work migrants. 2 billion a year spent on housing them. Net zero, what, 40, 50 billion? There's more than enough money to go around. And every single one of us in this country would see those soldiers taking these people to the shores. We fill those boats and we send them home. It'll be glorious. And it will reunify our sense of belonging and shared identity by achieving a win, a victory. And it's done by the ideology of political conservatism and the faith of the power and strength of the one true faith, Christianity. That shifts the needle. That takes our country back.
Do you think Christians and Muslims can live together?
So I'm presuming, from what I've learned about you in the last 45 minutes, you and I probably share the same view on an awful lot of things. That's my hunch. I will not stop identifying Muslims as separate from Islamists. I've met many, many Muslims who weren't Islamists. Now, the question then becomes, that was just to me, what are they behind closed doors? Kuwaiti, Qatari, Saudi, Afghani, Syrian. I've met lots. Let's be really honest about this. I'm immovable. Not every Muslim is a terrorist, but most terrorists are Muslims. Not every Muslim is an Islamist. And I stand by that, and my hand remains extended to the Islamic community, which says you decree and declare that this is a Christian land. Islam will be defunded via public taxpayer allowance funds, and we live side by side. You don't want your daughters with my sons, and I don't want my sons with your daughters, and we'll say no more about it. We'll shake hands, but we can do business together. Yes, of course. Straight question, straight answer. Of course. One small caveat. April of last year, I did a documentary, and it was on Britain's no-go zones. It's a good documentary, and it's available online if you put in Nick Tenconi no-go zones. And we did the business in 4 or 5 major cities, which we alleged were no-go zones. And we confirmed pretty much what a no-go zone looked like, smelt like, and felt like. And we definitely got the response we were looking for, that it is to define what no-go means. And because it's not bullets and machine guns, those are different parts of the world. It's a lot more subtle. The Islamic Caliphate isn't stupid. It's a lot more subtle. Part of the journey was to interview imams. One agreed to interview with us, invited us to his home. The shoes went off. The wife was sent upstairs. She wasn't allowed to be anywhere near us. And the men sat and spoke. This is all in the documentary. And the only question I cared about was, does Islam assimilate to British culture? He said no. Because we know with Islam, there is no assimilation. There is absolutely no assimilation. So then I said, what about integration? And that's what we do at UKIP, and that's what I do as well as a politician. So we talk about anarchy and chaos we want to avoid that. Integration, well, is that acceptable or not? Assimilation, best case scenario. And we've seen various examples of assimilation. both you and I have, that work. He said the best you could hope for is integration. Now, this is problematic because if we've got the Muslim versus Islamist argument, if you've read the hadiths, if you've read the surahs, if you've read the Quran, you will know that it says kill the infidel where you find them. There's no such commentary in our religious text. Quite the opposite, in fact. So if Muslims want to stand up to the misogyny and to the patriarch that controls Islam, their rules, their codes, their values, and if they want to say, no, we live British rules, British standards, British codes, reject Sharia law, ban halal meat, decree and declare this is a Christian land, then I am vindicated. My hand is extended to those people. And not only can they stay, but your question, can we live side by side? Yes, because we're always going to have problems over religious text. But you've got moderates that turn a blind eye to those really naughty things that are said in their book. And then you've got the Islamists who go, I've read that. You, the moderate, because the Islamists call the moderates out, by the way. They despise them. They hate them because they're not radical enough. So we have a very clear line. My hand remains extended to the eventuality, hypothesized at least, that these Muslims will say the burqa is getting banned. Yeah. The halal industry is getting banned. You're not allowed it. And you decree and declare that Britain's a Christian land. Lovely. We'll say no more about it. Saudi Arabia, Christianity is persecuted and there's no churches. We are going to take our country back and we are going to reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government. And an awful lot of people are going to be going home.
Yeah, see when you went to Cali and you see these young fighting fit men in their 20s, what was it? Because people need to understand, these people come through over 10 different countries from safe places to then come into the last place, which is the United Kingdom. But what are you seeing with these young men? Are they friendly? Are they speaking, having a conversation, coming over here willing to work, willing to provide for their family?
Sure.
Because once they get permission to be here, they then bring over their family, their friends.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And the numbers of family life here, we're not having 4, 5, 6 kids anymore. People are single, they're not married anymore. People are struggling. A lot of women in their 30s and 40s aren't even having kids. They don't want kids. But what are you seeing with these young men? Are they happy? Are they communicating well? Are they want to be doctors? Like, what are you seeing with these young kids?
So any conversation, let's be very clear, any conversation about, there are several conversations that are very, very much hot potato subjects. Demographic change and replacement is one of them. However, it happens to be one of the easiest things that I can discuss. And it's a pleasure to talk about as well. Let's park that for now and I'll leave that one to you. What did I see when I was in Calais? You mentioned about birth rates over here and they bring, again, let's go back to ITV News last night. One of the lines read by one of the reporters was about the reason why they all come here, and this is almost quote, the reason why they all come here is because they've got family here. So we know what's happened. The government, go back to the agenda, the government have decided to say, right, we're going to open the floodgates. This has all been happening since the Second World War, but in earnest from Tony Blair's reign of terror in 97. So they've had 25 plus years to bring over, it's forecasted 1.2 to 3 to 5 million, and that can be broken down, but we know it's probably more than that. So we know that there are millions here. So let's look at them. The left and the mainstream media say that we have to have these worker bees, and every great nation has always great, prosperous, powerful, big nation. As you know, they've always incorporated worker bees from various parts of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So the left will say that you have to have them because 1 in 3 doctors is an immigrant, which is a very vague statistic, and 1 in 3 nurses is an immigrant and 1 in 6 is a doctor. Again, very, very loose, vague statistics. So what did I meet when I went to Calais? Which was, by the way, for your viewers, why I went to Calais. I want to see all the women and children. I want to see the adverts that we saw in the 80s with the African kids and Bob Geldof with his little campaign and lots of other people like Ricky Gervais. I remember seeing a documentary once where he had to have the camera turned off because he was breaking down. I want to see that. I want to see people in distress. I want to see my inertia shift towards being skeptical to wanting to help them. I will help them. I will do that. They're not coming to Britain, but I will help them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's not what happened. 98%, 99% were fighting age males who were incredibly combative, incredibly hostile, and incredibly intimidating and threatening. And I noticed that they moved in packs. So we had only one option out there. With all of the NGO camps that's run by NGO lefty commie money, those migrants are very much guarded and protected by liberals and far left Antifa types. You could tell by the way they spoke, the way they dressed. It's all documented. When we went there to confront the migrants, we weren't allowed to talk to them. We were stopped from speaking to them. They used a little trick. They all arrive on bikes, these Antifa, Socialist Worker Party, lefty, commie types. They use the bike to intimidate you, to push you back. And you can see a confrontation between myself, and they deliberately used a woman because they don't know that I'm a professional, so that's not going to work with me. But then you know what they're going for. You can't be here. You can't speak to these people. You're not welcome. And then they call you a racist and they call you a fascist. And they say you're harassing migrants and refugees. So they've got their far left totalitarian propaganda ready to go. We're not allowed to speak to them. They've got necklaces with Kalashnikov, penchants, whatever on their chains. They've got the teardrops around the eyes. They're raising their middle fingers. I won't swear because I'm trying not to do that, but they swore at us. They told us to go F ourselves. And then most interestingly, at one of the NGO camps on our 3-day tour, one of them actually said, this is your fault. It's Britain's fault. That's why we're coming. It's all to do with empire and lightning bulb. Now we see. They're coming because they feel vindicated that they need to take their country back because of which they see as Britain, by the way, because of what Western imperialism has done to the Middle East, which is essentially bomb it, flatten it, displace everyone. I didn't throw any grenades. I don't think you might have been in the military, but we didn't give that order, did we? No, we didn't give in terms of the order to destabilize the Middle East. We didn't give that order, and that was absolutely harrowing to hear that. They're coming here, making TikTok videos on the dinghies with the Arabic chanting music in the background. They copied and pasted all of this from Catholicism and from Holy Mother Church and from Gregorian chant. So it is utterly unbearable. But they're playing their videos, or recording their videos rather, with the Arabic music in the background, and there's a little French flag at the top, and then there's the arm emoji, the muscular arm emoji, then the Great Britain, you've seen the GB flag, and they're coming home. They see this as home. It's the Islamic Caliphate. It's the 9th Crusade. I went there to see women, children, doctors, nurses, engineers, people that would come up to me, shake me by the hand. Hello, sir. What is it that you want? You can see this is a migrant camp. Let's discuss. Let's move away from the hubbub and let's have a conversation. And I expected him to tell me, Abdul, tell me about your wife and kids back home. Tell me why you fled them. Tell me about why you've all left your mothers and fathers. Tell me about why you've left your villages and your towns. Tell me about why you haven't stayed to fight and be part of your culture and be part of your society and be part of the resistance against this oppression that you face in all these different parts of the world. Not one of them would speak to us. How powerful would that have been if one of them, just one, forget it, there were no women and children, so it would have just been men. If just one man, eloquently spoken, agreed to converse with me and to explain that were he to go home, let's say he's 28, were he to go home, he would be killed. And I want to know the name of the country, and I want to know the dictator. Is this a product of Al Said? Is it a product of Al Sharif? I want to know. Tell me these. Does this go back to the Saddam era? James, if it was you and I, and you had nothing to hide, you'd speak to that person, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You wouldn't hide your faces. You wouldn't put on balaclavas. You wouldn't raise your middle finger, and you wouldn't say, we're coming to your land to take over and it's your fault. It is the 9th Crusade. It is the Islamic Caliphate.
See, I'm all for people coming from war-stricken places. I've got friends who come from Kosovo who came to our secondary school back in the day. Great families, but it was women, children, their fathers went out and worked. But we're living in a day and age where, like I say, it's these young boys, and you always have to, Especially with my platform, it's like not trying to justify or explain yourself, but for me, it's stop the fucking boat, stop the young men, unless they've got ID. That's it. Bottom line, it's a threat to our women and children. They're taking their money, they're taking up our space. Our veterans are on the street. Like I says, Britain has invaded a lot of places, America's invaded a lot of places, so I understand the argument of, well, you've caused this here, but we haven't caused that. And understand the argument, if it's women and it's children, of course, I would fucking open my doors to help protect people, because I don't see borders or religions. I see people as human. I see us all having the same blood, you know, but when it's young men, it's a different ballgame. When the rape stats are through the roof, when there's children being abused, when there's children being killed, and the media's portraying one side of it, it ain't fucking right. And we're living in a day where I think more people are making a stand, which is beautiful. I think more people have had enough. And you see these women in Epping with this, we're just concerned parents. You ain't far right and you ain't racist. A lot of these people, like you say, you're over there to see if there's women and children. There's none. It makes it easier to go, okay, well, maybe we should be helping. But when it's young men and the stats are going through the roof with the dangers, and Britain's becoming one of the worst. I think Mexico put a health and safety thing out to say, be careful coming into London. I think there's over 30,000 murders there per year, but yet they're giving safety warnings to come to London.
They got the cartels, and there are countries now putting out safety warnings on their version of the Home Office website, just like we've got when we put out red, amber warnings, whatever, for other countries. If, going back to your point, if I'd be so up for it. If they're coming in on dinghies. So if they got all those dinghies, right, and lined them up on the 50-mile stretch between Dunkirk and Calais, it would be beautiful. Line them all up, tool them up, and rock up on our shores. I'd be the first person to sign up. Let's say this, imagine this overnight, breaking news, Keir Starmer, sign up now, under 65s, like full conscription. You get a day's basic training. Some people are good to go. Some people need a bit more arm around the shoulder. I'm pretty sure of my capabilities. And I'd go down there and I'd have it out with them. You know, full-blown warfare. You know, it's an invasion, right? But that's not what this is. And this is why I've laboured on so hard and used the word demoralisation so much, because it does link to infighting on the right. It does link to snake oil salesmen and establishment stooges, James. It really does. There is a deliberate attempt to utterly crush and utterly demoralize and utterly destroy the very fabric of that which holds us together. Go back to those TikTok videos. Those men, fighting age men, coming here, who are coming from Islamic State. Whether they're jihadi warriors, a lot of these people have already been convicted of serious sexual assault. They've already been convicted of serious crimes, violence, murder. I just want to explain to your audience as well. You're aware of how much of London Qatar owns. How did that happen? Who gave the order for that? Who greenlit that? Who is that really just the mayor of London? Is it just the Treasury? Is it the Foreign Secretary? Who controls that? Who allowed? Have you been on Knightsbridge lately? Have you been at Hyde Park, Marble Arch? They map it out. They colonize. You're in a sea of hijabs and burqas or niqabs. You're typically around those areas, we call them Gucci Muslims. So you've got various different types of Muslims. Who gave that order to sell our land to the Middle East? I'm trying to go back to your point about running the agenda and giving your audience some meat on the bone. At some point, a group within the establishment has done a deal with Saudi, with Qatar, with whoever. And it said to them, Syria, all these different governments, right, listen, guys, you don't want those Islamist rats in your country. Saudi hates them. Some people think Saudi's a bit of a snake. They say things, but they mean other things. Whatever. Is it possible that our establishment has done deals with these Middle Eastern, North African, colonized, Arabic supremacy, colonialized, Islamic caliphate nations, which has grown exponentially to 57, 58 states that Israel is surrounded by now, compared with after the Second World War, where there was only one or two? Is it possible that our establishment, spineless, corrupt, actually, is it more insidious than that? Have they done a deal with these countries which says, Send us your dregs. Anything that's on a list, anything that's in jail or been in jail, just send us the list. Just send them. Just keep sending to it. Well, the British government is in with the French government, with the traffickers, be they Albanian or otherwise. Is it possible that our government is just saying, just send them, just do all this, and we want this much money in return? And so your Saudis and your Kuwaits and your Qatars and your Irans and your Syrias, whether it's a militia that's just taken charge, your Libyas, or whether it's an established government, is it possible that our government, the establishment, is getting paid an enormous amount of money, which could never be quantified or defined, to accept these people? And the payment, the client, is North African and Middle Eastern states. Is it possible? I think it's highly possible. And why would they do that? Why would the British government want to do that? Why would they want to incorporate the caliphate? Is it possible the British government, because I think that's where your audience would be right now, is, well, all right, fine. Well, why would the British government do that? Because that's just a basic commercial transaction. That's called corruption. That's called greed. That's called usurping democracy. Well, the British government gets paid. Again, who's in that particular room at that time when that deal goes down? No different from Matt Hancock with shady dealings with regards to the COVID files. So we know it's possible. We know it's true. Various people earn out of it. The Middle East gets rid of their dregs and spreads the caliphate. So the Middle East loves what's happening because they're sending their hardened warriors over to spread the caliphate by the back door. So we know what the Middle East get out of it and Northern Africa, and the British government gets paid. So the question, lastly, is why would they do that? Because they don't care. Because they don't care about us. They don't care about you and I. Is it possible for your audience that that's how bad, that's how deep this runs? We've just been sold out. These aren't women and children coming here. This is the illegal This is an illegal invasion of Islamists. They're fighting age men. We have to ask questions such as, why is this happening? I think we found our smoking gun. The establishment doesn't care about us, and they're earning out of it.
Do you think we're close to a civil war?
No, I don't. So this is very, very important. It's a subject. It's more than important. It's a subject very close to my heart. So to advocate for civil war is not what you've just done. You've suggested, are we close to it? Which is a completely different question. I don't believe we're close to it because we have no army. We have a major void of testosterone in the prevalent, most important age ranges. We've got relics of football hooliganism who are much older now as well after the big clampdown, which has been going on for 20, 30 years. We have soy boys, we have beta males, we have cucks to feminism. Because you've got to remember, a man gets older, the body breaks a lot easier, the will breaks a lot easier, especially if you aren't, especially from my worldview, especially if you aren't worshipping God, you will end up worshipping the self as well. You will end up, why am I doing this? What's the point, etc. That's why it's very important man has higher purpose. So civil war, let's discuss. With what army? Who? It's not going to happen. It's literally not going to happen because we just don't have the army. The question of, are we close to it? It's not going to happen because we don't have the army. And then the people that, very important to me, the dog whistle. You haven't done that, but the people that dog whistle towards civil war, there are some very prominent influencers, male and female, that have done this. Not only is it illegal, it is immoral also. British history, English history, as I'm sure you know, is steeped in the bloodiest, most awful civil wars, Hobbes, Leviathan, etc. That cannot happen again. It cannot happen again. And again, how? You know, there's more cameras per square mile in Britain across our towns and cities than any other country in Europe and indeed the world. And for the last, let's for ease, let's take from the Second World War, from the 1950s, we've been worshipping and idolizing liberalism, godlessness, degeneracy, debauchery, broken homes, the individual needs, video games, porn. With what army and with what inner fortitude would this civil war come? And then, of course, you've got draconian tyrannical laws demonstrated by the British government during the lockdown files. They throw everything at you. You'd have to have various groups and splinter cells in various different parts doing various different things. And we've got to remember, whenever that's happened, demonstrably, if we do a little history tour, those men were willing to die for the cause. So again, let's go back to the army and the cause, the causality, the causation. Is the motivation there? This is so unbelievably important. Such an important question about civil war. The direction that we must travel in isn't what once you've dealt with the topic of civil war, which is illegal and immoral and no. Plus it doesn't work. No army. We must turn our heads to solutions, and that's what shifts the needle for me. That changes it from being incredibly dark to incredibly positive and incredibly exciting. There is only one solution, James. There is only one solution. That solution is political. In a first past the post system, you have winners and you have losers. The patriots, and it warms my heart, hence why I've smiled, the patriots so desperately want to see all the leaders of the right in what's called a photo op, shaking hands. The patriots so desperately want to see that because that photo would show solidarity. It would show unity. But in reality, in a first past the post system, it's dog eat dog. There are winners and there are losers. So I'm spending an awful lot of my time as one of the only politicians at street level that give my time to hardworking, decent, common sense, concerned patriots, citizens, Christians, whatever. I'm the one that thrashes that debate out at street level. It happened just over the weekend. It'll happen again when I'm in the field this weekend. The patriots so desperately want to see the handshake and the smiles and the we're one big team. In a first past the post system, it doesn't work like that. You either win or you lose. And I'm waking the patriots up to that. And this kind of goes back to the very first thing we were talking about. I'm waking the patriots up to that as a result of what happened last summer very, very quickly and very, very successfully. In government, you have MI5 plants. In government, you have what's called state assets. In government, you have people that will put a gun to the back of your head and threaten your family. You also have what's called controlled opposition. So not only do you have government agents, plants, that's not something to be thought about too much, but just take my word for it there for your viewers. You have these things, they're state-controlled assets that cause friction, cause division. They deliberately manipulate and demoralize. You also have this thing called controlled opposition. If you're the establishment, which apparently the patriots use that word all the time, so we believe there is an establishment, it's made up of red, yellow, and blue. If you are the establishment, and you end up losing the battle, losing the war, like the Tories have done, they have betrayed so many people and broken so many hearts, you might want to create a new entity which you can control to ensure that you and your opponents stay in power. Do you notice how it's always a Labour or a Conservative government? Do you notice how it's always blue or red? How is it possible? Where are the underdogs? Where are the newcomers? How is it possible that it's always blue and red? And they chuck some crumbs to the yellow sometime. Nick Clegg, you can have a little coalition government. Now sit down over there and be a good little boy and shut up. And now you've got the Reform teal entity as well. Very liberal, slightly centre of the Tories. But the Tories could also move to the right with Braverman, Jenrick, even Badenoch, for example. She used the word camps yesterday, mate. So is it possible, when we talk about civil war, James, right, very important, is it possible that actually we've got a load of men and patriots in this country going, do you know what? No, civil war, I want to have it out. Because the English warrior spirit is lethal. The English warrior spirit, much like the Scottish, to be fair, is lethal, demonstrably lethal. Here's the thing. That's never going to happen. It's a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. And it's also a lazy, weak, when it does come out of the mouth, it's a lazy, weak argument because the Islamists, they're forming, and now they've got a political home with Corbyn and Sultana. The Liberals, they're all forming with the Liberal Democrats and the Blue Party, the Conservative Party, which is a Liberal Party. Your staunch Labour are galvanising behind Labour. So on the right, we're all just saying, do you know what, we'll just wait for fisticuffs. A, that's never going to happen. B, you'll be locked up before it does happen. And C, our enemies are mobilising behind the one solution they've recognised to win in a first past the post system, which is a political solution. So you have to become a political activist and give everything to that political party. It's called working your backside off. It's called standing up. It's called putting your name forward. It's called becoming a candidate. Most patriots haven't even been a member of a political party before. This is so exciting, so heartwarming, and I'm out there convincing them of what they've got to do. Because what happened last year? Everyone followed Nigel. Everyone followed Nigel and Reform blindly because they didn't want to put the work in. Nigel said, he Pied Piper, I'm your guy, I'm your man. He's now an MP earning so much money and potentially going to become Prime Minister because of a deal with the Tories or whatever. Imagine if he got that. He's only got 4 MPs. That result last year was awful. That was a terrible result. Does it all start to make sense now? Does it all start to come very, very clear? We must put in the hard yards and accept that everyone, lots of big names, lots of people who still haven't apologized for it, by the way, got it very, very wrong. It's now time to do what our enemies do. You can call it the unholy alliance, the Islamists, the communists, the liberals, whatever. You've got to get political. No more talk of civil war. Join a party, stand for the party, promote the party, get behind the party, attend events, attend protests, get behind the purple tidal wave. In 4 years' time, we could cause untold, and this is, forgive me, James, I know this is a really long response, but it's so exciting. In 4 years' time, we could cause untold damage to the establishment. Labour's numbers down, Tory numbers down, Lib Dems will probably go up, Reform goes up, UKIP, the underdog, Cinderella story, comes in from out of nowhere, massive, massive result. All of a sudden, you then start talking about coalition governments and non-negotiables, detentions, deportations, remigration, reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government, offer the people a referendum on the death penalty. If that were to be with a resurgent Tory party or Reform, that deal would have to go through. Otherwise, we'll just block everything they do in Parliament.
Yeah.
That's the unity, but it comes from the hard yards and the graft and the blood, sweat and tears behind a political entity.
Look what Labour done for their votes for the grooming gang scandal. It was votes over victims with all the cover-up of all this grooming gangs, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of innocent kids. Abuse covered up for votes.
This is a very, this and Southport are very difficult for us men to speak of. Not because we're lazy, but because there's an exhaustion. There's an exhaustion with it. Tomorrow it's another man's daughter. Or in the case of Southport, obviously ultra violence that can't actually be described. It's out of a horror movie. Labour's worst enemies, Maggie Oliver, Raja Mia, Tommy Robinson,
Sammy Woodhouse.
Sammy Woodhouse.
What, she's amazing.
There's a squad of, I'd say, maybe 50 patriots. There's a lot of people. I didn't like it the other month when someone at GB News took, I'm not going to name him, but he took credit for the grooming gang expose. And
it's been a big part of people. People have lost their livelihoods. People have had threats all their whole life. I had Raja on as well, and he's doing amazing work, but you can't, not one person can take credit for that. But people who were speaking out 10 years ago deserve all the credit they can get, you know, because of what they did. Because then again, it wasn't popular, it wasn't trending then. People were getting called racist, far right. You get called that now, but these words don't mean anything.
This is bravery on an unprecedented level. Billy Howarth, Parents Against Grooming, PAG. There are so many. Look, what can I say, James? we know what happened. The police constables that were in the Telford, Rotherham, Oldham, Rochdale police stations that took the phone calls, that bore witness to the fathers in tears, those police constables, those PCs, go up a notch, they're commanders, and then go political, local councillors, mayors, go all the way up to Whitehall. All of them, it's now known and it's exposed, all of them, at some point, it was widely understood and accepted that they knew. And let's go back to the tweet that was put out which a prominent Labour backbencher liked. And I think the allegation is she liked it and retweeted it. And the tweet said these girls need to shut their mouths for the sake of diversity. So I struggle with regards to what to say about this subject. I've done everything within my power, but within my power has been in the last 365 days. Well, that's too late, isn't it? Because those good people that you mentioned, they've done all the work. And I don't know. A year ago, there'll be another spike. It's not just Elon at the start of this year. There'll be another spike in all this. It's a forecasted 1 million, the rape genocide of Britain. You can't unrape someone and you can't undestroy their life. So all that's left as a politician, all that's left is to say, policy-wise, the first thing is detention, deportation, remigration. Every single perpetrator of the rape, paedophile, grooming gang scandal who was either in prison, got off, but was guilty, so needs to be retried, or is now out and has served time, must be deported. Every single person involved as an attacker, as a predator, in the paedophile grooming gang scandal must be deported. They must be deported.
What do you think of death penalty?
The death penalty must be reinstated for the most heinous of crimes.
I think harming
Britain.
kids, women from illegal immigrants that do that, death penalty. I think, I believe bringing it back. You've got to be 100% though on their crimes, but would it even stop it? Because you've got the death penalty in America. I think these people are just so warped in their mind.
Yeah.
But with the rise, like we're saying, rape and sexual assaults, that's only the ones that's been reported.
Sure.
What about the ones that haven't been reported? And how is it when you're trying to do your thing, especially the people on the left? We've got to touch on these people, like when you've got the backbone as a working class people who are going to these rallies, women, children, hardworking men who are concerned parents, and you've got people on the left saying leave them alone and they're not doing anything wrong. Like, what the fuck is going on there? Like, how? And everybody sees the world differently. Our brains are different. Our brains are wired different. But if people are, you've got protesters protesting against people who are protesting against people who are abusing their kids. You know, it's so, I can't get my head around it. And I don't want to force my opinions and my beliefs on everyone because I try and understand we all see the world differently. But I just find it so fucked up and deranged that how you can be supporting people when the stats are now there. We're not wrong. We're not racist because we're supporting our own, you know, and it's scary how these people's minds are worked, but they seem to have a big voice as well. And that's madness to me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up. So let's be clear about justice for the girls. You can't unrape someone, can't undestroy their life. So I'm on record. All that's left as a politician is what's going to happen next. Everyone who's involved is gone, and everyone who's an indigenous Brit or is a native, I don't know what you want to call it, they need to face the full extent of the law. And obviously that I want to tie that into the conversation about the death penalty as well. That's very important. And then last but not least, once you've done deportations, remigration, once you've issued all the punishments, you then have reparations for the girls. So that does £1 million doesn't help, right? But everyone in society can gather around them and say, look, we're going to get through this together, right? That's the least that you can do. And that was just a number off the top of my head. But reparations must play a part in it. In terms of our enemies, this is most important to discuss. UKIP is an enigma under my leadership for so many different reasons. DDR, detentions, deportations, remigration. Reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government. We have 6 missions.
Is that your manifesto?
Yeah, we have 6 missions. Number 1, call out and educate on the problems of far left extremism, far left totalitarian propaganda, because that links back to all the indoctrination and brainwashing, the lies and the deceit, hence the creation of the unholy alliance, which we're going to come on to talk about now. Number 2, deploy the military into the Channel, end illegal immigration, close the borders for 5 years, moratorium on immigration for 5 years, close the borders. Number 3, end and remove radical Islam from Britain, detain and deport the 39,000 on MI5's terror watch list, 39,000 Islamists out of 45,000 on MI5's terror watch list. Number 4, educate on the problems of godlessness, liberalism, narcissism, fatherlessness, broken homes, re-engineer society. Number 5, place Christianity back into the heart of government. Number 6, declare war on culture, on vulture capitalism, corporatism, Agenda 2030, net zero, and foreign corporate lobbying designed to subvert British culture under the banner of what we should be calling it, which is domestic terrorism. Now let's talk about those communists. UKIP is an enigma for lots of reasons. Our DDR policy, Christianity back into the heart of government, but 6, more broadly, 6 missions. We also want the communists gone as well. Now here's why. This hasn't been done in Britain before. And I don't advise you do it, but if you go into my comment section on my social media, whenever I talk about deporting communists, which is 99% of the time, you'll have both the ethno-nationalists and members of the far right and liberals, socialists and communists alike saying, what are you talking about? What do you mean communists are going home? Yeah, we're sending to North Korea. They don't have a lot to say back to that. This is unheard of. It's unprecedented. Communism is a political ideology that is sick and twisted, but it is also, Christian worldview, a weapon of the devil to encourage godlessness and to remove God from man's heart and to destroy the church. Anyone who knows early church teaching and theological history knows that communism is the weapon of the devil. Now, from the secular worldview, they don't like hearing those words. It doesn't make any sense to them. But they are aware of what far left extremism looks like and sounds like. They are aware of Marxism. They are aware of Trotsky, Lenin, Mao, 100 million dead under socialist regimes. People have a basic understanding of National Socialism under Hitler, for example. They do understand that it's always the diversity, inclusion, equality agenda that drives the socialist rise to power, and then dictatorial megalomaniacs, evil human beings then start doing very evil things. Conservatism's the last stance against that. So that enigma is saying we're sending the communists, the far left extremists, the left-wing fascists home. And here's why. When I go and give a speech at an anti-pedophile demo or an anti-grooming gang, anti-pedophile grooming gang demo, and there's 200 lefties calling me a Nazi, saying that we want justice for the girls, that's a line that's crossed and can't ever be undone again. When we take to the streets and we say we want justice for Britain, we want to protect our women and children, going back to your exact point, James, and we want to defend the most vulnerable within society, and they shout Nazi scum off our streets, free Palestine, and then let's travel back to my days with Turning Point, which still exist, and I'm taking on the far left students on our university campuses who spit and chuck water and flip the table. The indoctrination and the brainwashing. I went to university. I've done A-levels. I went to school and did GCSEs. You never had a problem with your conservatives. No one identified as conservative or social. I mean, I did. But it was everyone got on. Everyone got on because it was essentially a very ignorant, apathetic period. I went to university. I still remember the guy who identified as a communist who went on to get a first in his degree. He's a very smart guy, but he identified as a communist. But we never fought. I was a blue-blooded conservative, right-wing as they come, but we never fought. He believed in Marxism and was an atheist, and I believe in the one true faith, and my blood runs blue as a conservative. These people you describe, when they oppose us with their trade union-funded Socialist Worker Party, endless, limitless cash donations from the George Soroses of the world, when they stand and oppose our peaceful, law-abiding message against grooming gangs, against paedophilia, against injustice, against protecting the most vulnerable within society, what do you suggest we do with those people? And again, I'll go back to those arguments and all those videos I've done that have gone viral when I was working with Turning Point about exposing indoctrination and brainwashing. Free, free Palestine, free, free. They're gone. And another thing, and I will break protocol here now and get very, very personal. I can speak from experience. that far left totalitarian propaganda, standard Islamic narrative, also known as sin, and Islamist propaganda has designed to work and engineered, indeed orchestrated and architected to work its way into the hearts and minds of those who are more of an emotional disposition. We both know that emotion and intellect exist at the same time concurrently, but you can control one over the other one, correct? And I know for a fact that the reason why the Unholy Alliance and the popularity of the Free Palestine movement is in existence is because it's fashionable, it's trending, and it's won the hearts and minds of an awful lot of our young demographics, appealing to the emotional side of the argument, meanwhile being completely ignorant and oblivious of the fact that 330,000 Nigerian Christian children have been slaughtered. The death toll in Gaza has gone up to 67,000, correct? The genocide of Armenian Christians has been going on for over 100 years, and it's north of 1 million. In Nigeria, Boko Haram, Islamist Boko Haram, have massacred 330,000 Christian children. These people that have been indoctrinated, the very people you talk about who oppose us, these people, they've been indoctrinated and brainwashed to something that is not only unholy, not only is it evil, unfair, unreasonable, but it is also fashion. It's trending. And I say we show no mercy, no diplomacy, and no surrender. After October 7th, 23, when they took to the streets, the Islamists and the communists, and they started to form that alliance, because they see it as a massive blow. The rape and killing of 1,400 people, they see as a blow against Western democracy, our economic, cultural values. They're insane. They're psychopaths. They should have stayed at home. So I'll make that very clear. There are lines that have been crossed, and I say no mercy, no diplomacy, no surrender. We want the communists gone with the Islamists and the invaders, and we want the traitors in government who have sold our country out. We want them gone as well.
See, I love conversations. You know how many people I've asked on from the left and not one person's done it?
Sure.
I just want a conversation. Just how do you see the world? How did you get down that route? How did you then dye your hair blue or whatever it is to then make those decisions? How can you be supporting immigrants, illegal immigrants who are doing that to our women and children? How can you support certain things? Just having a discussion. I just want to know how the mind. Even Liam Tufts is a good friend of mine. I know you've been on his show twice. Like, great guy. Love him to bits. He was on the streets there and they were just all shouting and agitated. Like, people are just asking the questions. Like, why do you support this? Why do you support that? But we're living in a very softened generation. These people are the weakest of the weak.
Emotional.
And they're trying to recruit, you know. And if Section 28, do you know about Section 28? This was Maggie Thatcher in 1988.
I did.
They try to stop homosexuality getting spoke about in schools and stuff. Now, you look at the rise, because people are easily guided. Especially human beings were easily manipulated. So if they stopped that from getting spoken in schools, it was a lot. Listen, be who you want to be, first of all. I'm not fucking asked. But when kids are going through schools and it's being promoted, if I've got a transgender, do you know my daughter was at a private school, a homeschooler now, and so fucking nearly 20 grand a year for a school, and there's somebody identifying as a cat. Do you know the headmaster approved that to take the litter box in every other fucking class? And I think, are you fucking serious? Like, I'm all, like I say, be who you want to be. This girl had a tail on. She had like little whiskers and fucking ears.
I'm aware of the
and
story.
I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? And I was the one getting in trouble for expressing my opinion. Like, I'm trying to give my kids better opportunities now. I homeschool my daughter. I think it's better. She loves it. She's actually thriving. But I like the unity of kids and having fun and expressing themselves. But
sport as well.
yeah, it's a big part of your learning and your growing, your mistakes and all the other shit that comes with it. But if you look at the transgender movement, if you look at why is there a transgender or the drag queen story times. Like, why the fuck is there drag queens reading stories to kids when the majority of these people are now, it comes out that there's 2 gay men as well who just adopted a daughter who's been done for sexual abuse and child images. Like, what the fuck is going wrong? Like, you should be nowhere near kids. There should be more things in place as well. If you're a paedophile convicted, then We should be knowing your address. We should be knowing your location. We should be knowing everything about you. Stop protecting these people who are staying across from schools. But it's at an all-time high. I don't know, social media, and internet. Porn is one of the biggest destructions to mankind. The more porn you watch, the more depressed you become. But we're living in a generation where people are easily guided and people are easily led, and that's scary to me. But for these people who are supporting this sort of stuff, I think, what the fuck is wrong? Like, is there any coming back from the way they're seeing the world and supporting things that are harming our own?
Fascinating. Is there any way back? So you've just listed a lot, and the precursor was that I'm saying I mentioned at the start of my very long response about re-educating British society on the dangers and consequences of far left extremism, and fast forward to my final point, we want them gone. And now you're saying, what do we do about these people and the indoctrination? You've listed a whole load of things there. These people are psychopaths, James. They're psychopaths. You can't reason with them. You can't argue with them. You can't negotiate with them. I think that, well, I don't think. I began earning my stripes at street level with Turning Point very shortly after becoming Chief Operations Officer, so at the beginning of 2002. So for all intents and purposes, I've now been at street level week in, week out, month in, month out for over 3.5 years. I've been up close and personal, the whole, the confrontation, the pushing, the shoving, the shouting, the nonsense, etc. We're both professionals, so we control ourselves. But you know how it gets. You know how it gets. We want these people gone. We want these people gone. Their child mutilation dogmas and their child sacrifice dogmas, their abuse, their totalitarian, immovable, dogmatic stance that they are right and that they are not fascists. The endless funding of pride and the promotion of pride to the point now where if you meet someone who's gay, before they've drawn breath and shook your hand, they'll say, oh, by the way, I'm gay. Like if someone's vegan, before they've drawn breath, and by the way, you and I couldn't give two you-know-whats, and they'll say, oh, I'm vegan. Yeah, I know you're a narcissist. Great. You just told me that. What do we do about these problems? You started all this off with Section 28, and I know why. It's a good starting point. Over 18, behind closed doors, do what you want. That's what the millennials were raised on by the boomers, and I stand by that. Over 18, behind closed doors. If you're up to anything unlawful, then you should be brought to book. But you've listed an awful lot of things there. We want them gone. I say we send them home. Now, I know that sounds a bit ambiguous and a bit, well, where? All of this madness, and it's difficult to rattle off, but let's try. LGBTQIA+, climate Nazis, eco-Nazis, net zero sycophants.
Those oil people.
Just stop oil, psychopaths, whatever. Communists. Everyone involved in the Communist Party, or whatever it's called, the Communist Revolutionary Party in Britain. There's others as well, but that covers climate, net zero, LGBT, the radical. Sorry, let's just call it the radical trans lobby, TQIA+. We don't want them here. So you've got to defund it at source. So again, speaking about it now is one hypothesis. Speaking about it when I'm running the country is another one. You defund all of it. You make it a criminal offence. It's right there in our manifesto. You will not allow to talk about, push, peddle this complete nonsense / filth to children. We know there's an UNESCO worldwide rollout to teach kids 3 and up of things I don't want to say on camera because it's disgusting, but the adult side of the adult experience of sexuality, shall we say, 3 and up, they're being taught that all the things that you don't talk about, in public, all that. So you defund all of it. Kids are kids. Mum and dad control what they do and don't learn in terms of the bees and the birds and what have you. It's called personal responsibility. You chose to have children. I don't want sex ed anywhere near my kids until my wife and I, if I'm blessed enough to have a wife, sits them down and says, right, now you need to be, that's my job. That's our job, not the state's job. So there needs to be a concerted effort to defund and de-promote and remove, essentially prescribe, for want of a better word, all of this nonsense. Sexuality does not, the promotion of it, the discussion of it is all designed to create degenerates. It's all designed to create depression and anxiety. The number one way to traumatize a child is through sexualization. It's the number one way. And it's also something you can get away with as well, because there's no shots fired. There's no rape, there's no murder, there's no corpse, there's no blood. So what you do is you sexualize them instead. These Marxist teachers, it's all there in our manifesto. We want them gone. We want them either in jail or we want them gone. So maybe that's what we'll do. Let's take the case of the let's put some meat on the bones here. The cat example, which I know about. The head teacher's allowed for all this, right? So that guy should be fired and prosecuted. Simple. Now, I'm not a judge or jury, so it's very difficult to talk about sentencing, unless, of course, we're talking about the most heinous of crimes. But does that make sense now?
Yeah.
That's all there for your audience, available on our website at ukip.org. It's all there about what we're going to do to either defund, dismantle, destabilize, or frankly, just remove, just rip out. You asked a very good question, but it's long and it's ambiguous. When we say we're taking our country back, we mean from the traitors in government, by the removal of the invaders, and from the degenerates and the perverts. And let's start calling these people what they are. Let's start calling liberals out for whom what they are. If you're not a conservative, if you're a liberal, love is love. Love means anything. Love means whatever makes you happy. At some point, if you stop serving God, you will end up serving the self. It's called narcissism. And what does pride breed? Pride breeds narcissism. And what's the capital sin? Pride. It's very easy to re-engineer society if you have willing people. And all I need is for people to be willing for prosperity and for a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging. I can't promise you happiness. That's an illusion. Yeah. But I can promise a change in direction, certainly.
I think with this podcast, people listening, people watching, you've been kind of upfront what you want, the changes that need to be done, the stats, the figures. But why should people trust you? Because they've been let down so much through the years. But why should people trust you, Nick?
Perfect. So you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't ask me that. And going forward, I expect to be asked that every single time, predicated also on the fact that I think I'm fairly transparent and vulnerable. And I think that the audience gets a feel for that as well. But there's one question that I can't answer. I can give you an answer, but we both know I can't answer. It's called a checkmate question. So in one breath, I'm saying that you've got establishment stooges. I mentioned about plants and MI5 controlled assets, controlled opposition, WEF interference, people getting guns to the backs of the head, for example. Why would I be any different? What makes me different? So here's the list. Where I come from, the rent is due every day on trust, loyalty, and respect. In your personal life, if you're courting, or if you're married with your wife. Vice versa. The trust, you could spend 30 years together. This is also for commercial life as well. You might have a business partner, for example, or a boss. You could spend your entire life winning points. And then one day, either with her, God forbid, or with your boss, you do one thing wrong and you lose everything. I think we saw that recently with that guy at the Kiss camera at that ball game or something like that in America, the CEO, regardless of whether he cares or not, by the way, because he might be a multi-billionaire, etc. The rent is due every day on trust, loyalty, and respect. That means that I need to be judged every single day on the words that come out of my mouth and my actions. So that's my first answer. The second answer is that my soul isn't for sale. So yes, I'm baptized. Yes, I'm confirmed. Yes, I'm practicing, which means very simply that I'm an unworthy, repentant sinner. That doesn't make me special. It means that every day I ask for forgiveness. So my soul isn't for sale because it goes directly against my faith. It's not possible. But you could argue to that, but that still doesn't give us any kind of guarantee. That's nothing concrete. And the third thing is I'm a 41-year-old, ordinary, guy that runs his own little limited companies. There's no multimillionaires. There's no Savile Row suits. I'm not part of the establishment. I've been betrayed by the establishment, the lockdown files, what the Conservative Party did to me. I've been betrayed and let down by the establishment. I don't associate or hobnob with the establishment stooges in and around Westminster. I'm an ordinary guy who from a very, very early age wanted to understand what conservatism as the ideology meant, what makes Christianity the one true faith. And I've spent a very, very long time with many, many people trying to make their lives better, trying to help them in some way, shape or form, always making myself the best version, which as a Christian, ultimately we land at suffering is grace, which means we wake up every morning wanting the suffering, wanting the pain, because that's our armor, that's our ammo. And to non-Christians, it's kind of hard to explain. But that's what I'd say. The rent is due every single day. My soul's not for sale, and I'm also not part of the establishment. I will lead the people to victory, and I will return justice. I will return the country to the patriots, but I will deliver justice for the citizens, but also for the girls as well. And I'm asking people. David Cameron was young. Tony Blair was young. It's very rare to have my kind of rise and profile, and all happening this fast. And with the advent of new media or independent journalism, I'm asking the people to listen to my words, look at the picture and the timeline I've painted, and ask themselves the question, do they want to back this? And if they do, I'm asking them, you have to do it 100%. Because in 4 years' time, if they do back me and they give it their absolute all, in 4 years' time, you will see Christian nationalism in some capacity having an enormous say in government. And that is our end goal. That's our touchdown point.
Yeah, because if you look at, I'm just going off topic here, but if you look at Poland, a very Christian country, no illegal immigrants, and it's only like 1%. It's the lowest, one of the lowest, I think it's the top 3 lowest of sexual crimes and rapes. So something must be in exactly what you're saying, you know, like, but time will tell. And if people believe in you and if people want to support you, what do they do?
So it's very simple. From what I've learned at street level, for a very long time, patriots haven't actually known what their ideology is, but they're waking up very quickly to the fact that it's the evils of liberalism and godlessness that are the problem, and that we are actually, as concerned citizens, blue-blooded conservatives. I need people to understand that the vast majority of patriots who want their country back, who for decades have not joined a political party, they have not signed up to become a member of a political party. The 40%, the famous 40% that don't vote, if you want your country back, the only solution is a political party returning what's called a majority. You must go to ukip.org and hit join now. 10 minutes later, you've paid your £30 a year, or £10 if you're age 16 to 25, or £20 if you're a veteran or of a certain age. You've joined, and then 7 days later-ish, you get a letter from me and a membership card. You're now a member of a political party. Just that instruction alone, James, is alien and foreign to tens of millions of would-be voters out there who desperately want their country back. That's all people have to do. Go to ukip.org, join, and if they want to, they can check out our 6 missions, which is, again, right there on the landing page. And if they want, they can look at our manifesto. And if they want, they can look at our explicitly Christian policy document. All the information's right there, surmised heavily in this interview, I might add. The first thing that they've got to do if they want to back me as their leader to take Britain back is join UKIP. Now, once that's done, they need to go back on the website and hit the button which says apply to become a candidate. Once they've done that, they go through vetting, which I am personally and intimately involved with. Once they're approved, they then become the UKIP candidate in that area. Tens of millions of patriots still don't understand that this is how you take your country back in a first-past-the-post system. Once you've become a member, you need to go back on the website and put your name forward to become a candidate. And if you're not putting your name forward to become a candidate, you must refer someone. Because if you're not stepping up in your area or your constituency, someone else must. And that's called networking. That's called referring. Join at ukip.org. Put your name forward to stand as a candidate at ukip.org. And then let the party worry about training, developing, coaching and mentoring you. Because we're going to give all of our candidates, and that list is growing rapidly, by the way, we're going to give all of our candidates all the training they need to build their online footprint and their footprint at street level, to be able to build their personal brand in order to be able to win in a general election or local election. But we're focused on the general election. Now, tens of millions of patriots, I just outlined a very basic timeline there with regards to what has to be done to take the country back. And hundreds of thousands, tens of millions of patriots, the 40% that don't vote, the people that talk to me in the street about how do we win, your question indeed, it takes 30 seconds. You've got to join a political party. You've got to put your name forward to stand as a candidate. And then you let us, the party, train you with regards to how you build your profile so you become prominent enough without getting arrested, doing all of it in the right way, because we specialize in smart activism and professional activism, so that at the general election, when all the leaflets are put through all the doors and you've won so many hearts and minds, you return the seat. You return the majority. So in most constituencies, we all know that majorities look like, 17,000 votes, 19,000 votes. In some constituencies, it's more than that, depending on voter behaviour. But you will be there on the night of the general election, putting your fist in the air because you won the most amount of votes and you are now a UKIP member of parliament, just like how Lee Anderson did it, just like how Richard Tice did it, just like how James Murdoch did it, just like how Nigel Farage did it. It's so simple, and it's right there in front of you on the UKIP website. It's right there. And last but not least, there is no time left. We were out of time a year ago. We have 4 years to return as many UKIP candidates as possible in the general election. All you have to do in a first past the post system is win.
Because I think there's nearly 40-50% of people don't vote. So there is a big percentage of it. Just before we finish up, I know you've been doing your rounds and going to all the protests. You were up in my home city, Glasgow. How was that?
Yeah, fantastic. What a turnout. So honoured. Remember, James, when we do the mass deportations demo tour 1 a month, right? So in 2 weeks, next Saturday. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Next Saturday. And as you know, Glasgow was 3 weeks ago, right? We spoke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm walking into. I don't know how the police are going to be. I don't know how the intelligence services are going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be welcomed. Maybe there's 300 people, but I'm not welcome. What if the protest, which is my protest, it's a UKIP protest, but what if it gets hijacked? I have no idea what I'm walking into. And we started as we forecasted, and we said to our members and supporters and to the online community, we're going to start in January, which we did. So we've done 8, or this is number 8. We've done 7. And each time, James, I'm walking into a crowd of patriots, whether it's 100, 200, 300. I think, to be fair, we have had a bit more than that on some of them. And interestingly, the numbers are growing. Going back to some of our chats about people getting a little bit more brave and a bit more vocal. They're coming out to support. So important. So important. Not only is there a large group of people there, but they want to shake me by the hand and they want to say thank you. And it's me that's saying thank you to them. I work for the people. I serve the people. Glasgow was fantastic. The police tried to stop me from getting to my own demo. They formed a line of horses. They tried to stop me from getting to my own demo. They messed us around for 10, 11 minutes. And then, yep, you can come through now. They just try to mess with us. I walk through 200-300 patriots, all selecting me as their leader, wanting me there, shaking me by the hand, thanking me, and I'm there thinking, it's me, the one that's grateful. If you want me to be your leader, I will be your leader. It's truly blessed, thanks be to God. And Glasgow's awesome.
Just before we finish up, brother, in life we've always got ups and downs, but for anybody that's maybe in a life of struggle, maybe fearful of the future, what advice would you have for them?
There are, without any doubt whatsoever, tens of millions of people right now in that position, mums and dads whose daughters have been interfered with as a result of mass uncontrolled legal immigration and the Islamist invasion, young boys and girls who have now been taught that they're not allowed to flirt, they're not allowed to talk to each other, they're not allowed for the man to make the proverbial move, and they waste the opportunity because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And we want our young male and female population getting married, having babies, and undoing all the problems, indeed re-engineering society. So there'll be tens of millions of people right now, and these are the words that I always use, that have essentially lost hope. They've essentially given up. They've lost hope. That's part of the demoralization and demonization program being run by our very own traitorous, corrupt government. I unfortunately can't save everyone, but here's the deal. Anyone who steps forward and asks me to save them and follows me and lets me lead them, I swear I will save them. Because by definition, saving the country saves the individual. But I'll make it very, very clear to the very important, quite nice question, actually. I like that. I can't save everyone. It's also not my job to save everyone. We're blue-blooded conservatives. Personal responsibility is literally up there in the top 3 in the little handbook. It's literally right up there. You must reject porn. You must fight against sin. You must fight against urges. You must fight against the evil that swarms you. We must repent. We must return to our roots, which is Christianity. Our roots are our faith. Our faith is Christianity. My advice to those people who are hanging in there by a thread. I got a DM the other day from a guy who said he was going to kill himself. I messaged him straight away. I'm sure you get very similar messages as well. People who have influence. It's not my job to save everyone. I can't save everyone. But if people follow me and if they let me lead them, then I will save them. And the only other thing is that people must rediscover their faith. They must rediscover their faith. We are living in very, very dark, utterly wicked, evil times. Well, you need a holy solution for an evil problem. There is no secular, atheist, godless, material solution to spiritual crisis, to wickedness and to evil. You need holy solutions. So my advice for those people that are struggling so much is to not only get back into church, not only to rediscover their faith, but they're going to have to do what I did, which is they're going to have to start understanding which denominations and which parishes to stay absolutely away from and which ones to embrace. Because it's all very well the British Christian revival that's happening, James. Everyone's flocking back to the parishes. That's all very well and good. But if they're all doing it to the lefty, woke, corrupt, heretical, satanic Church of England, to give an example, well, that's useless then, isn't it? So follow me and I will save you. That's my pledge to the individual. Give me your loyalty and I will do that. And get yourself back into the right parish, the right church, and get back to our roots, to your roots, which are Christian.
Nick, listen, thank you for your time, brother. Would you like to finish up on anything else?
No, just to say thanks be to God. And at the risk of sounding repetitive, we have no time left for your audience. I know a lot of people are going to see this. We have no time left. There are no grains of sand left in the hourglass. You have got to get political. You have got to pick a side. Forget nonsense conversations about unity and harmony and all that other liberal nonsense. I will not stand for it. If you want your country back, you have to return a majority of candidates in our system, which is first past the post, which means you have to join a party and you have to stand to be a candidate in the election. If not you, then who? And if the patriots, concerned citizens, Christians, whichever demographic, all of them, all of the above, if all of them say, we're going to leave it to the liberals, we're going to leave it to the establishment, I swear on everything that's holy, the Islamic Caliphate will win. Islamic State will win. If we trust the liberals and the centrists and the establishment with the future of our country, the way things are going, we will lose to the Islamic Caliphate. No shots fired. We will simply be outbred. We will simply be outbred. We must take back control of the center so we can start putting the right money, the right amounts in the right places, the right levels of inspiration and hope in the right locations. Our schools, we have to reindustrialize Britain. We must also look at remilitarization. There is a defunding attempt to demilitarize Britain. You can only perform these tasks once you control the center. You must instill a government and a leader of your choosing, and that starts by joining, becoming a member of the political party of your choosing, and then putting your name forward to stand as a candidate, and then returning the most amount of candidates. That is the only and final solution and option for Britain if they want their country back.
Nick, thank you. I wish you nothing but the best for the future. Take care and God bless.
Thank you, James.